Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for my Gameweek 29 team selection video where I will be free hitting. Guys, I've made a few tweaks to the free hit template to try and get an edge on some of my rivals this week. And guys, I'm very excited to share it with you. So guys, if you enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. First of all, let's have a look at our Gameweek 28 scores. So in Gameweek 28, I feel like we unlocked a new achievement, somehow getting a green arrow with no Heung-min Son in my team. Don't ask me why he's not in my team. I've just had too many other issues, to be honest, with my team that I haven't really been able to make that transfer. But still, regardless, a pretty strong score. And actually getting a green arrow was a pleasant surprise I definitely was not expecting. Maybe a little bit lucky to get a goal from Zabani. He is not a player who typically scores goals. We spoke about that when we picked him. He's not really a goal scorer. We really bring him in for clean sheets. And they just did not come the way of Bournemouth, despite their two favourable fixtures. So the double Bournemouth defence, in a way, didn't work out, but in other ways, hey, we got points for them playing, we got points for the random goal from Zabani, and we'll take it. Estupinian was a nice hold in the end in my starting 11, and in general, I think my team performed amicably, considering there was no Son, because that was really the big disaster in my team, and I thought I couldn't recover from it. Somehow, I actually managed to. So, guys, you will know that I only have two players in my squad who have a fixture in Game Week 29, and those two players are Watkins and Taylor. Every single other one of my players has blanked or is going to blank. As by design of my team, I am looking for a longer term view of my team, trying to build towards a double Game Week 34 team and a wildcard in 35, but that means I've got a free hit right now, guys. So now, whether you are free hitting or not, I'm already telling you I have to do it. I have no choice. I have bottlenecked myself into this situation. I'm going full send, full committal to this strategy, and I'm very, very excited to see if it works out or not. So my free hit team costs just 93.5 million. So actually a very, very cheap free hit. As with most people, there's no Salahs, there's no Haalands at the moment. So therefore, all of our free hit teams are going to be pretty cheap. But this is what I'm going for. Starting off in goal with Flecken, the popular goalkeeper pick, of course. He's got Burnley away this game week. And it looks like Brentford have the highest odds of a clean sheet. Now, I know Brentford haven't been great defensively recently, but they've had some really, really tough fixtures against the likes of Man City twice, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal. They've played all of the toughest teams recently, it seems. So therefore, when they have a slightly more favourable fixture against a Burnley team that is one of the biggest teams that struggle to get goals in the Premier League, you know, them and Crystal Palace really are tracking with the worst attacking numbers of any teams in the Premier League at the moment. You do think if Brentford are going to turn things around with a clean sheet, this is the game to do it. Flecken also making a lot of saves in recent game weeks, so you never know when you're going to pick up some extra points for saves as well, even if you don't get that clean sheet that you do so desperately desire. Moving on into defence, and we're going to go for some attacking players here. Pedro Porro is the first pick. Obviously, he is a fairly attacking wing-back, now back in fitness, capable of a couple of bonus points here and there as well. Will he be generating the same numbers as he maybe did a few months ago? Probably not, because he is going to be off those set pieces whilst Maddison is on the pitch. But he still is a player with a lot of attacking potential that you do see occasionally, does take the occasional shot on as well. So if Spurs can somehow manage to eke out a clean sheet in this game, and I think they will struggle to be fair, at least we've got the attacking potential to fall back on, and I think that's all you can really hope for this game week. For so many of the defences, clean sheets are going to be hard to come by, and I think going for those attacking fullbacks is probably the key to success in those defensive positions on a free hit team. Which brings us to Doughty, a player who we pretty much expect to score, well, maybe get an assist, probably not score a goal, definitely not keep a clean sheet. Against Nottingham Forest, I guess there's always a chance that you can keep a clean sheet in a home fixture, but Luton are just so poor defensively, so we're really owning Doughty for his attacking potential. We saw him get an assist in the second game of Game Week 27. That's what he does. He creates so much. His key pass numbers are really, really incredible. He's a set piece taker as well. So definitely one of the first players on my team sheet in terms of those defensive positions when we're looking for players with attacking potential rather than relying on clean sheets, which brings us to our final pick. And currently, I'm on Reguilon. I don't know if this is going to stick. I'm also looking at Rorslev. I think I'm going to go into Game Week 29 with either Reguilon or Rorslev, and it's really going to depend on who I think is going to start. Now, there's a good chance we might get team news for Brentford before the Game Week 29 deadline, and if we do, that might help inform my decision. But Reguilon when he plays, he is, you know, the most attacking of the wingbacks, I guess, at Brentford at the moment. He is a set-piece taker, and he's more than capable of getting attacking returns, as well as the highest chance of any team to get a clean sheet this week by playing for that Brentford defence. So I think Reguilon would be a really, really nice player to own if he starts. I'm really, really crossing my fingers. I've already seen him back in training, back in full training with the first team, so that's positive news so far. We've got a couple of days left. I'm really hoping that he is going to be available, because I think a lot of people, because of that yellow Dorito of death next to his name on the FPL app or website, people are going to really be put off Reguilon, and I think we can maybe kind of use him as a bit of a differential actually this game week, where most people will be looking elsewhere for their defenders. Let's go into the midfield with Son as our first pick, Mr. Obvious in these free hit teams. He is in every free hit draft I have seen, and no surprise really, expecting him to be super high owned this game week. For or even the people not free hitting are also going to have the likes of Son in their team this week. He is obviously a player in form, playing as a central striker, likely on penalties as well for this Spurs team, whilst Richarlison remains out injured, which is very, very positive as well. So much potential here. We know how good Son is as an FPL pick, so no doubt about it, you would want to have him against Fulham in a game week where there's not too many options really. So I do like this one. One thing I should say is that I don't think Fulham is a super easy fixture, and I expect Palhinha to come back into the Fulham lineup this week. Maybe Fulham going with a slightly more defensive setup this game week against Spurs. I can see that happening, and maybe that might improve their defensive numbers. Their defensive numbers, to be fair, are around mid-table anyway, and they don't typically concede more than 2 goals per game. So am I expecting a mega haul from Son? Not necessarily, but if anyone's going to be involved in those 2 goals for Spurs, assuming that they can score 2 goals in this game, it's going to be Son. And if they get a 3rd goal, well, you know it's going to be Son, because at the end of the games, on the counter-attack, if Spurs are already up, it's all about Heung-min Son. It's just what he does. Maddison is going to be the Spurs attacker I pair him with here, so that completes my 3 Spurs players. I think Spurs as probably the strongest team for this game week on current form. You would say Maddison will go in there as our 3rd Spurs attacker, 3rd Spurs player. Definitely a team we want to triple up on. I think Maddison probably the 2nd best attacker in this Spurs team at the moment in FPL terms. Of course, other players are perhaps a minutes risk or not quite playing in the right positions. And Maddison, we definitely do like him for his set pieces, which he's going to be taking. He's taken a few more shots in the box recently, and he's delivering a little bit more recently as well, getting back into that form that he showed earlier on in the season. So another player I'm really, really backing, and may actually be the key to unlocking this Fulham defence. Could be quite nice. Could be more of a Maddison game than it is a Son game in many respects, but you've got to back your boy Son really. But Maddison, I definitely think he has potential here too, which moves us on to the next fixture, I guess, which I think is going to be the highest scoring game of this game week, and that involves West Ham. Yes, West Ham at home against Aston Villa. We've seen recently that West Ham, not only are they one of the weakest defences in the Premier League, kind of alongside Newcastle. I mean, they just conceded 2 goals to Burnley. How that happened, I have no idea. It's just West Ham are just so weak defensively, conceding so many chances. But it has to be said about Aston Villa, they are starting to follow the same trajectory. Their defence seems to be getting worse and worse as each game week goes by. A lot of that is to do with injuries they've had. They've now got a new suspension to McGinn. Kamara is long-term injured, and he has been a crucial player to this Aston Villa defence. So they in many ways have fallen off defensively, and Aston Villa also playing away from home. So I think West Ham have a very decent chance of getting some goals out of this fixture, and Bowen is a player you have to back in that fixture, playing out of position as a striker despite being listed as a midfielder, just like Heung-min Son, and a player who has been in some form recently, actually has been getting some attacking returns recently, maybe following a similar trajectory to Son. You know, 3 attacking returns a few game weeks ago, 1 last game week as well, the game week before last. So yeah, Bowen, I think he can. I think he can do the business. If you're backing anyone from West Ham, it's got to be Bowen. Surely it is. But I am going to double up on the West Ham attack. I know not too many people are doing this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to put in Lucas Paqueta in my free hit 29 team. Now, on a free hit, one of the huge advantages of your free hit is that you don't have to keep the player long term. You have this player for 1 game week only, which allows you to go differential. It allows you to go for a punt, and it allows you to pick a player that you might have a little bit of confidence in in, but it's maybe a little bit risky. And I do believe Paqueta is that guy. Now, one thing that has to be said about Paqueta is that his underlying numbers are actually pretty decent at the moment. Slightly better than Bowen's, in fact, since his return from injury. Another factor, Paqueta is on penalties. So, not only do we have a penalty taker, but we have a player who's tracking with slightly better numbers than Bowen over the last couple of game weeks. And that is really nice. And I am following the numbers a little bit. I am following the vibes a little bit as well. Football is also played on grass, and Paqueta always looks good whenever he's on a football pitch. That's why so many big clubs are interested in him. He's a phenomenal football player. So I really do think that this is a player that not a lot of people will have the willingness to go for, and a nice differential indeed. And I swear, if Aston Villa, concede a penalty somehow to West Ham, Paqueta steps up to take it, that's going to be a huge, huge advantage for anyone who is backing the West Ham midfielder, and a differential of just 1.8% ownership at present moment. That might go up as we approach the deadline, but he's going to be my differential this game week. But he's not my only differential, because I would say my final midfielder, Bailey, he is not in everyone's free hit team. I think he should be in most free hit teams, to be honest, but actually Bailey is being overlooked by a lot of people. Now, again, I did say that West Ham are a horrendous defence right now, and when we're looking for a midfielder to capitalise on that from the Aston Villa team, a lot of people will go for Douglas Luiz, but with McGinn and Kamara out, Douglas Luiz's defensive responsibilities are just going to grow with Tielemans on the pitch as well. Is he going to share some set-piece responsibilities with Tielemans as well with Douglas Luiz? I think maybe also Douglas Luiz, he does so well at home, but not so well away either. Bailey, on the other hand, is just a player who's been very, very consistent, in very, very good consistent form over the past couple of months. I think he's really, really come into his own recently, creative, taking a lot of shots on it in those dangerous areas, partnering Watkins in those forward positions. So I think Bailey could be another one of those dark horse underdog players that a lot of people maybe avoid because they look to Douglas Luiz, or they look to other midfielders, or they replace Bailey actually with if they're going for maybe a more differential pick like Paqueta, then maybe Bailey is the player to give way in order to bring in a player like Paqueta. I think a lot of people will maybe do that as well. But I'm backing it, man. I'm going for Bailey, and I'm feeling pretty confident about him too. I think he could be another nice bit of spice in my FPL team. Paqueta, Bailey on this side of my midfield. I think those could be the difference makers. Maybe Reguilon as well, that trio kind of there, really being the difference makers compared to, I guess, the free hit template among other free hitters. Of course, those who aren't free hitting, I should probably, hopefully, outscore them all. But with these three players, maybe that could give me the slight edge, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for here. Finding that edge is just more crucial than ever in FPL at the moment, with the template being so strong. Up front, Ollie Watkins, of course. Of course he's going to be in this team against West Ham away, the superstar striker, the top performing forward of this FPL season against the second weakest defence in the Premier League, only better than Newcastle. If Aston Villa were playing Newcastle this game week, you would be putting Watkins in. This is pretty much as close as we can get right now. And Watkins, despite a blank in Spurs, maybe a little bit unlucky under the circumstances in which that game actually ended up going, but Watkins still a player in top form, putting up some top performances, and he plays yet another weak defence, which is going to give him another opportunity to get one of those big hauls that he has got in recent games. We'll go back to maybe Sheffield United, for example, fixtures like that, where he's been doing so well, getting those mega hauls, those 15-point pluses that he definitely has in his locker. We didn't think he had those in his locker, maybe previously, but now we know he can do it. He can really do it. He has become that star in this Aston Villa team, which brings us to our final player on our starting 11, and that's going to be Tony. So we are going to go for the 3-5-2 formation with Tony as our final player. His predicted points are really high this game week, and I think that's because Burnley are considered a weaker team. I actually do think that Watkins has the better fixture than Tony, but Tony also has penalties, and although Tony's not been in the greatest form recently, he is a man who's had tough fixtures, and I think coming up against Burnley, it will be his opportunity to get back to what we all know about him, or what we all love about him. Penalties haven't come the way of Brentford recently either, which is surprising. Brentford typically a team that do get a lot of penalties go their way, so maybe Tony is finally going to get the penalty that we've been dreaming of this game week, in the week that we free hit him into our team. On the bench, guys, Kaminsky, because I'm not really sure what other goalkeeper is likely to keep a clean sheet this week. I guess out of the teams that I haven't haven't already tripled up on, I guess Nottingham Forest is one of the more favourable fixtures, and at least there's save points potentially there. Morris, I think, is probably the third best forward to go for. I do prefer some of the midfielders, slightly higher potential, but Morris is one of the better forwards to go for, certainly, and he's a nice safe option to have on the bench, just in case anything goes terribly wrong, last minute injury to any of my attackers in my current free hit draft. Morris can come in and deputise that. He's a nice safe pick, 90-minute man kind of thing. You know he's going to start, you know he's going to play, and you have a good idea that he might be involved as well. Unlucky not to get attacking returns in game week 28, actually, Morris. We've got Moreno, Alex Moreno. Risky little attacking Aston Villa defender there. Potentially could get involved in some attacking returns, but I'm not confident enough, and I would rather back the West Ham attack than go for Moreno. So I'm choosing, I'm choosing to take some bets, take some risks here. My bet, I guess, is that West Ham will be able to score a couple of goals, and therefore Moreno is not naturally a player I'd like to start. I don't want to hedge my bets too much. I'd rather go a little bit more all in if I possibly can. That's why I've got no Burnley attackers, for example, because I'm doubled up on the Brentford defence. So I'm betting on a Brentford clean sheet, for example. And we've got Murillo as my final kind of safety pick. He is a Nottingham Forest defender against Luton Town. Potential clean sheet, I guess, but he's last on my bench. Really hoping that I don't need to go that deep on my bench on a free hit team. That would be quite the disaster. So, guys, that is what my team is looking like right now. As for my captain, it is going to be, well, it currently is on Heung-min Son. That is my captain, same as everyone else. I've got the vice captain on Ollie Watkins at the moment, but I have to say to you guys, honestly, I want to captain Watkins. I think I do. And I think if I wasn't an FPL content creator and didn't have to try and save face, I probably would be captaining Watkins because that's far more my style of play. I think Watkins has better underlying numbers recently, and I also think Watkins has the better fixture than Heung-min Son does. And I think Watkins is not as dependent on game state as Son in order to get attacking returns. Remember, last game week, in game week 28, despite Son's huge haul, what it required was Spurs to already be up in that game for for Son really to come alive, because that's what he does. He comes alive when Spurs are already up, when the team he's playing against, often an attacking team that will push forward, allows him space in behind. If, a team like Fulham are not the same kind of team that plays with a high line, they are a team that I don't think are so easily going to kind of open the floodgates, I guess, if they do go a goal or two down. And I think Son's haul potential is potentially lower than Watkins. If I was to, kind of guess who is more likely to get a 15 pointer plus, I would maybe edge towards Watkins, and that is kind of the high upside that I would maybe be looking to go for. But of course, I am a content creator. I do have to save face. I do have responsibility to you guys, so I have to recommend Son as a captain pick to everyone here, and that's unfortunate, but it's just the way things are. The question is, do I kind of go back to basics, go back to my roots, play the game I want to play, and actually end up captaining Watkins? I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I just play it safe and go for Son like everyone else? Or should I kind of maybe be a bit more true to myself and captain a player like Watkins? I feel like if I didn't captain Watkins, I would definitely regret it if Watkins ended up outscoring Son. But at the same time, if I'm captaining Son, I can't lose because everyone's going to do the same thing anyway. So although I might not be able to find that edge, I would at least not lose. And a lot of my differentials and risks have come crashing down recently. I don't know, that's all because of bad decisions. Maybe some of them have been, but we've had a lot of injury problems, and I think that's maybe contributed to a lot of my differentials not paying off. So maybe, I don't know, I'm feeling a bit more down about going differential at the moment, and maybe just want to consolidate more at the moment, but it doesn't feel right. It really doesn't feel right. I want to captain Watkins, but I don't think I'm going to. So annoying. Guys, let's have a quick look out on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team Tool, because I want to show you the predicted points for this team. So, I have loaded up my team into the Fantasy Football Hub My Team Tool just to see a predicted score and see what the AI rates this as. It rates it as a 96% rated team for Game Week 29 with 58 predicted points, which is interesting. It is recommending that I captain Son. He's got the highest predicted points this game week at 6.7. Tony in second place at 5.7. I know a lot of people looking to potentially captain Tony as a differential, and Watkins on 5.6. We've got Region, quite low predicted points this game week at 2.4. I think that's partially due to the fact he is flagged in FPL at the moment, which does impact the potential points of players, or at least the predicted points of players within this tool. And Paqueta better for 4.1 predicted points as well there. So he is another one of the slightly lower ones. Something that I have noticed throughout this game week when playing around on this tool is that the defenders really are super low for predicted points. Most of them, if not all of them, pretty much, other than maybe Doughty, predicted 4 or less, or less than 4 predicted points for this game week, which suggests to me if you're not on a free hit, I don't think it's worth taking hits for defenders this week. Just hits. If you are going to take hits, just do it for those attacking players, because there are a decent amount of attacking players with decent potential of 5 points or more. Bowen, Madison, for example. Obviously, we've spoken about Watkins already. There's some other players as well that look pretty decent for predicted points. I mean, Fofana is 4.7. He's actually got one of the highest rated forwards for this game week for predicted points at 4.7. Actually, slightly higher than Morris. So if you did want to go differential there, bet against a Brentford clean sheet, then Fofana would potentially be the way to go. But I'll let you guys check that out for yourself. Link in the description, as always. And there we go. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure you do drop a like, do subscribe if you are new around here as well, and make sure you join me over the next couple of days just in case we make any final tweaks to this free hit team, particularly with regards to that Watkins captaincy, which I am so tempted by. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Try and convince me either way, and maybe you guys can give me some advice this time. But yeah, aside from that, make sure you check out another video if you want to. There's plenty of other Gameweek 29 content on the channel, whether you're free hitting or not. Aside from that, I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.